Alright, so in today's video, I got the Platinum Trophy on Resident Evil 5. Recently, I made a few videos on some other Resident Evil games, and going in my own screwed up order of playing them, I decided to do the 5th one today. Now, this game in the past has been very controversial. A lot of people hate it, and some people, or a lot, I don't really know, love it. It's hard to kind of tell what the opinion of this game is in hindsight, but after platinuming it today, I don't think I've ever wanted to not play a game when hopping on my PlayStation more in my entire life. But Resident Evil 5 has a total of 51 trophies inside of it and takes on average 30 hours to complete, which is the exact time I finished it in, so rare accuracy by PSN profiles. Anyways, this is also a part of a challenge where I've been trying to platinum over 100 games suggested by the community, and if I can't complete them all before the channel hits 850,000 subscribers, then I have to shave my head and look like a base character from a video game. So make sure to drop a like and subscribe. But stage 1 of the platinum is to beat the story and go for collectibles. However, almost instantly you will miss one, and I decided instead to just make this my blind playthrough and experience this game with fun, or at least I thought that's what would happen. Resident Evil 5's entire plot point has Chris and Sheva, two agents sent off to Africa to investigate an outbreak of disease similar to that of what they saw in other areas inside the Resident Evil universe. And this is where the onslaught of controversy of this game actually sparks from. And it's because of the fact that Chris is legit just the whitest dude ever in Africa, and every single enemy in this game is indeed not white. I mean, we're in Africa. And they also just get destroyed by him the entire time without putting up much of a fight in most circumstances. Cue the infinite rocket launcher executions. But aside from that controversy on Resident Evil 5, I also think the game is just inherently not good. I tried to stream it and even record the game with my capture card, which works 110% of the time on literally every other game. But on this one, it would just not pick up the game's voices, and I have no clue why. Which made for some of the weirdest moments and cutscenes and just story ever. You have fundamentally chosen the worst Resident Evil to plat. Yeah. But aside from that, there's more. The gameplay itself. I understand that this game is ancient and older than some of you watching this most likely, but it features a very odd and, I guess, unique aiming system. On every gun aside from your scope ones, you aim completely standing still without being able to move, so you're locked in place, which isn't ideal in high action games as we all know. But you also don't have a crosshair, and the aim is directly just from the position your gun is aiming in with a laser 90% of the time. It's one of the most odd and stupidly annoying mechanics I've ever seen a game have, and it was beyond frustrating. This game is also co-op the entire time, and I didn't have anyone to really play with through my playthrough, which led me to rely on the game's old AI to function, which it rarely does. Many times I had to reset checkpoint because the bot would not engage in the correct story action. Now, if what I've said already sounds like I'm just complaining and a skill issue, you might be right, but I don't care. This is also going to be one of those videos where I'm not going to go in depth with the game's story, both because it's trash, but I also don't care enough, seeing as I deeply hate this game with everything left in my soul. Now, that's not much considering I am now level 500 on PSN, I know, weird flex. But the first trophy I got during this mess was from the first chapter's completion. And this is actually the only Resident Evil game I've played yet where you get a trophy upon every single chapter or mission's finish. And that's actually because this game functions in a very odd story direction. It reminds me a lot of COD campaigns and the fact that each part of the game is split into chapters with them being separated completely. And it's not threaded well like the way most Resident Evil games are. Unlike Resident Evil 2, which I just played, in that game you could quite literally travel to any part of the map for almost the entire game. Whereas in this one, if you finish the chapter, you never will return aside from through chapter select. I'm really trying hard to make this game sound bad because it is, and I refuse to see anyone have fun on it. But back to the trophies, as I said, you get one per chapter's completion. There's quite a few chapters in this game, which would ultimately make that the main portion of the trophy list. And in the next section of the game, I ran into a bunch of enemies at once and made the genius decision to chuck a grenade into them all, and it gave me a trophy for getting 3 kills with 1 grenade. This mission also led us down into the underground of the area for the first time. Down here, we also encountered the first boss fight of the game against these heavily corrupted and gross enemies. The way you go about taking it down easily, at least, is to stun them and then turn on the furnace room and do a little cremation, as they say. This isn't needed necessarily, but since our guns are so weak right now, it's almost required. I then finished the section off with the cutscene in which I had no clue or can remember what happened in it because there's no audio and I can't read. But here's the trophy. Next up, I would get one after this somewhat cool story moment, which had a truck barreling towards us and our only way of escape being to shoot an oil barrel and explode it off its wheels. Right after that, I also shot another oil barrel because a ton of enemies began to pile in, and I got 3 kills with its explosion for a trophy. Later on, we ended up in a tiny village by by the shore, and I simply got a trophy for getting 20 exploding headshots, which happened when the game decided, yes, this player deserves a headshot kill with an explosion. And that's about it for the qualifications. I then watched another awkward cutscene and got another story trophy. For the entire next part of the game, I would then get 0 trophies until I reached another boss fight, and it was against this very disgusting creature of which I can't even say it is. They legit made up some new hell spawn with this one. But I also got my teeth absolutely knocked in as if I was a drunk divorced man at a bar and started beefing with Mark Zuckerberg. Show us the Zuck, Mark, I said. And he did. The fight lasted forever, way longer than I ever could. However, I did not die a single time because we're on easy and dying is not that easy to do. But I finally did kill it with a swift explosion and my side hurts now. Yet again, another awkward cutscene and story trophy. The following mission was then quite literally ripped out of a COD game. Like, this is the exact scenario that has happened in their game's campaign missions, and I will die on this rock saying that. But it was, you know, a bit of fun. And I think that's because they finally gave us a decent weapon, high action, and functioning shooting mechanics with a damn crosshair that doesn't have aiming bloom. After that car chasing part though, we would end up in a boss fight against this like ogre creation. Low-key, he looks like my late uncle a little bit, but the fight was genuinely hard, and that's mostly due to me not knowing his moves and messing up quick time event string, which I also did not know happened. But on professional difficulty later, which is needed for the platinum, this fight is actually the hardest thing in the entire game, and it took me multiple tries, even with assistance from a homie. However, for now, doing it on easy solo was very doable, and I did, with another trophy popping from the story. I then reached a mission where I died numerous times. It was awful. I also think this is when the game might have gotten racist in some people's eyes due to the enemies being an extremely tribal gear. Now, I don't want to say anything about tribal people because I have in the past and I got some flame for it, even though I didn't mean it like that. But yes, these are people in a tribe. I used to be in one of them also, I think. It was called the Assisted Learning Tribe at school. A lot of interesting people in that class also. Anyways, I got a trophy here once I finished the section, and it quite literally ended with us just leaving the village very abruptly after getting abused for multiple minutes straight. But that sort of led us into a very long and dragged out escape the area section that spawned some chapters of the game. First, we landed in a fire puzzle having to rotate these valves around this workplace to turn off the fire blocking a bridge exit. And during it, I got a trophy for shooting at enemies, grenade, Molotov, or whatever they were about to throw right here. Right after that section, you then end up trying to take an elevator in a following room with enemies pouring in, and I farmed my 20th physical kill for a trophy here as well. We then had to run to a boat to escape once reaching the outside, and we did just that, which then ended off the mission and another story trophy popped. The following mission then had us on that boat and doing a massive boss fight against a very large enemy or creature. I'm not sure its proper pronouns, so I won't say. But the thing would have been super hard to fight, that is if we didn't have these giant turrets to assist us. So we took on the thing easily and got another story trophy. The following section of the game then had us in our first real puzzle part, and I got lost a lot. Became very frustrated and annoyed at this game. So much so that once I finally, and I mean finally, finished the mission, which amounted to almost nothing aside from more puzzles to do next, I got a story trophy, and then I actually stopped streaming because I felt so bad. Also, I am gonna get off. I feel like shit. Resident Evil 5 has ruined my life. That might be an exaggeration, but you never know. Now, I alluded to that last section of the game ending off with us entering more puzzles, and I wasn't joking. Because there was a section of this game next, quite literally consisting entirely of puzzles right after. The infamous light puzzle. Shout out to YouTube guide creators once more. And once I did complete this, I got another trophy. This game is trash. There was then another boss fight, and it was against a giant spider, I think. I'm not sure what this is totally, but that's my best guess. And it's also the entirety of this mission, just a good old boss fight. It was a bit challenging, however, because it has a lot of attacks in which you cannot dodge, so you just die. But I did win and then finished off the level with another story trophy popping right after. And the next mission then had yet again another boss fight, which was also even more challenging. In this fight, I thought for the longest time was the most challenging fight I've done in the game. That ogre fight earlier on Pro would take over the spot eventually though. But this is because this fight has a very odd way that damage is received on the boss. And even after platinuming the game, I'm still unsure of how to really beat it fast. I failed numerous times. I spent over an hour on it and I cried a tear. Just a single one though, I'm not a bitch. But right before finishing the fight, I got a trophy for saving my partner 10 times when help, which means they are bleeding out, was displayed. But once again, when the fight was finally over and I could breathe again, I got another story trophy. The next section then had yet again another boss fight. I genuinely think the Resident Evil developers ran out of ideas on this game at this point because they just started cramming boss battles back to back to back. It's kind of gross. And this time it was against actually important people, Wesker and Jill. Jill you might remember from other games, and Wesker is just the evil guy in Resident Evil overall, so that's cool. But the fight is very confusing start to finish and also very hard. You first have to get rid of Wesker and leave Jill alone because she isn't really controlling herself of her own free will. Instead, there's this device on her chest that's controlling her. But to get rid of Wesker, you have to either damage him enough to make him finish, or wait 7 minutes, which is the golden time he allocated to spend with us. Crazy schedule he's got. But once that was over, Jill still remained to fight us. And this is the real challenging part because you can't really hurt her seeing as her HP is so low, and if she dies, it's game over. Instead, you hurt her with words of emotional damage, and then try to rip off the device from her chest, which you have to engage like 7 times, I think, at least to get to finally rip off and leave her, totally fine. But after that, the section ended with another story trophy. Now, I don't really care about this game's story because it's inherently dumb and trash, but if you do, just for some info, we are on the 6th chapter now, which is the final one and has 3 parts all within the same area on this ship. And in the first one, we just traversed through the ship trying to reach its inside. Once inside, there was just a ton of enemies, and I also got a trophy for saving my partner 10 times when dying was displayed, which actually, this is them really dying, so disregard what I previously said, I don't care. That section then ended with some lore drops about this old dude who used to drag his balls over Wesker's face when he was a preteen, and that caused a lot of trauma, so he turned out as you'd expect, and I got another story trophy. The next 2 sections and the final 2 parts of the game, if you want to be accurate, both consisted of us in boss fights. The first one was against this giant squid creation called Orob. If that's not its name, I don't know it. Again, the audio in this game was broken and I can't read. But you just fight it and then use this very OP targeting system to decimate any chances the thing had at a happy life growing old, which then gave us another trophy. I then began the final part of the game, which had us first escaping the ship since it's blowing up now, and I got a trophy during it for defeating 5 enemies with the knife. I'm not sure how I hadn't done that before, but okay. I then spent the next hour and a half finishing the game off. We had to do some weird ass fights against Wesker on this loading bay area with rocket launchers and darkness. Very odd combo. Usually it's darkness and deep loneliness, but this time Wesker touched us, so company is company. Anyways, that was like the pre-com of the fight, which led us into the real final one, which was also weird and hard. And I again don't know a good method for this because I do not get this game. It's just very stupid and trash. But you have to fight Wesker the whole time. And they even tried to put the fight in the same location as Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan's duel. I guess there was some similarities. For one, Anakin, who was us in this story, as we all know, because he's way cooler than Obi-Wan. He also executed tri-people just like we did today. And Obi-Wan and Wesker's names both have a W in them, so that's why they are the same. But yeah, we killed Wesker. The end. And here's the trophies from me beating the game. I hate this game again if you didn't already know. But anyways, the next goal for me was to beat the game, or as much of it as I could, on professional difficulty. The hardest in the game. Because you need to do every single chapter on professional for a trophy, and the hardest in the game in general. Before that though, one of my homies joined up who had immaculate Resident Evil 5 knowledge, and we did a little egg glitch to get a ton of rotten eggs because they sell for a lot of money, and it's just a great way to get funds for our gun upgrading investments that will make the professional playthrough a lot easier. During this duping session, I did also get a trophy for obtaining all types of eggs in the game clearly, and after that I would end up upgrading some guns, getting a good setup, and then making my way through the story, eventually ending up at that car chase mission again. And I did a trophy during it for shooting the driver of the truck that came up to our side, which was easy, and I'm surprised I didn't get it on my first go. I then just kept on grinding out that professional difficulty, and it sucked caca like actual doo-doo. I would also reach that ogre boss fight, and with the AI I genuinely think it's impossible to do, so I just suffered for a while, rage quit, rest in peace controller, and then I moved on to the next chapter, saving that one for when the homie could help. Now in the professional playthrough, I was using the Lightning Cock Magnum, Infinite Rocket Launcher, and the Hydra Shotgun, which are the 3 best guns for professional. And while using the Infinite Rocket Launcher, I killed Wesker in under 7 minutes at his section, which was awesome, and I got a trophy from that. And then I just kind of grind out the rest of this difficulty. It really isn't that hard except for the ogre fight like I've mentioned, but that's mostly because the Infinite Rocket Launcher can one-shot nearly everything, including a few bosses. I'm not sure how or why it's so good, but I'm here for it. So once I finished it off, I didn't get any trophies because I still do, as I've said, need to beat that ogre again, which led me to instead go after a few random trophies, and I actually went and got every single last miscellaneous one that I needed. The first trophy I got was called Cattle Prod, which had me defeat 30 enemies with the Stun Rod. Now the Stun Rod is the only melee weapon you can hold and also have to buy it in the store, but it's actually kind of good and does a bit of splash damage to make this very easy to obtain. I then did another few trophies in the same area from using the Gatling gun and bow to both get 30 kills with them for their respective trophies. Next I threw a rotten egg, which are insanely rare, and I just so happened to get one for my pro playthrough, onto a woman, which killed her. Kind of insane, but here's the trophy. And I then farmed a good, healthy relationship with a woman, which I thought to be a hard thing to get in life, at least it has been for me. But in this game, all it requires is for you to kill spiders when they jump on the lady. So once we reached a good level of relation, as they say, I got the trophy. I then did a very simple trophy called the Works, which had me perform the max combo on enemies in a row, which was done on the fat enemy type. You shoot him in the leg to stun him and then throw a punch, have your AI teammate throw another, and then let you finish him off sloppy style for the trophy pop. I then went after, in my opinion, the hardest combat trophy. It's called Lead Aspirin or Lead Aspirin. Whatever level of English you have, it's up to interpretation. But you have to shoot an enemy's head as they are jumping, and as we all know, this game's aim mechanics suck balls. So I spent a very long time attempting this, and I would end up getting it after just getting lucky, I guess. I don't even know, bro, that was ass. I then deflected an arrow with my knife. First try, might I add, because I'm the GOAT. I also killed multiple enemies with a flash grenade for another trophy, and then I burned 3 enemies at once with a single fire cost from an oil canister. Followed with me killing an enemy using electric current for another trophy. And then I returned to the Jill and Wesker fight because there's another trophy you can get on it from Jill this time, and it's simply from removing the bug on her chest using your teammate's help and not when she's solitarily on the floor. So it's kind of dumb, but I did do it again anyways. My last miscellaneous trophy was then just from stabbing the heart of a liquor enemy, which was kind of challenging because they are super quick, but after a few tries I did do it. I then real quick ran to the levels again to get collectibles, and I followed a very good guide for all these, which I highly recommend for any poor soul that plays this game. But I would end up stopping the collectible grind a bit before finding them all to finish off the pro levels I need with the homie. And we took multiple tries to beat the ogre fight, but eventually did. It's actually insane how hard this fight is, and I would like to move on for it or else I'm gonna crash out. So here's all the trophies I got once we did beat him, and shout out bro for the assistance. We then also farmed some more eggs and money with the homie as well, and through that I was able to raise enough funds to buy every single weapon in the game for that trophy, and also upgrade them all, which took insanely high amounts of clams. But after that it was then back to the collectibles, and I was only missing a few. So I found the final token to shoot, shot it, and got that trophy. Followed up with me tracking down the last few treasures for that trophy as well. And then all that remained was me just buying various different extras in the bonus section of the game for those trophies attributed to it, with the platinum popping once I got them all. So that was the Resident Evil 5 platinum trophy experience. I hate this game. Rating it out of 10, I'll give it a 1. It would be a 0, but that's harsh. It sucks, and it sucks that bad, but I'm feeling good now that I can move on with my life. Also, sorry for not rating the last game I did out of 10. I forgot to.